As the old adage goes, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. But what about when it comes to an anime? An anime's opening theme is a substantial component within the act of storytelling. It establishes overarching themes, both lyrically and visually, and provides a gateway into the show's world, evoking feelings and emotions relevant to the plot and message, similar to an epigraph for a book or film. But with anime, especially today, it's more about consuming the consumer. Openings have an emphasis on more riveting qualities, from the visuals to the incredible music, and it becomes a first impression that can sway viewers. So when an opening fails to stick the landing, it's no surprise the fandom takes notice. One winter 2025 anime certainly caught the internet's attention, and not in a good way. The opening for Sakamoto Days was released ahead of its anime's premiere, and while it was meant to drum up hype, it ended up sparking widespread backlash from fans. Does an opening really deserve this much heat? Should we judge an anime based on the opening alone? But before we dive into this any further, if you are into dissecting anime openings and exploring the significance in video essays such as this one right here, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on any upcoming videos from me. Now let's figure out if Sakamoto Days deserves all this backlash or if fans might be jumping the gun. Anime openings are an essential part of the storytelling process. They are all composed of very intentional decisions, with series creators making clear efforts not to waste opportunities that animation presents. Now, think about it. When you hear any of the openings from Demon Slayer, or a more recent release like Dandadan, you are immersed into these worlds of those series. They're absorbing. They're darn near intense. And I'm sure those songs have made their way onto your anime playlist too. We have talked before on this channel about the significance of anime openings and what makes an excellent or ideal OP. At its core, an excellent opening feels like an extension of the anime itself, capturing the most compelling aspects of a series and compacting it into a 90-second sequence. Looking at Demon Slayer, its first opening doesn't just showcase flashy action, it reflects Tanjiro's emotional journey for the season. It captures the grief of losing his family, as well as the subsequent crusade to avenge them, and protect his living sister Nezuko. In the first iteration, each Hashira starts as a dark silhouette, shrouded in mystery. But as each new member is introduced, the following opening will illuminate their depiction. So each time it reflects the process of all of them, except for Giyu being fully revealed to Tanjiro and us, the viewers. Likewise, there's Dandadan. Its opening succeeds in translating the supernatural chaos of the series precisely because it feels the chaos. The rapid cuts, bold colors, and exaggerated visuals mirror the series' eccentric energy. But it's adorned with a peppering of glimpses into the character's emotional depth. It's dynamic, but entirely deliberate, perfectly capturing the tone of the show and orienting the audience's mind into the right space. And the music for both series have become instant hits. It's widely accepted that Demon Slayer and Dandadan excel in using their openings to pull us into their worlds. They offer the perfect pairing of being an incredible series with an equally as incredible opening. Without diving into things like action sequences, symbolic imagery, or even just clever use of color and framing, they achieve what all openings seek to do: leave an impression. And it was with that same goal in mind that Sakamoto Days was marketed with a pre-release of its opening. For those unfamiliar, Sakamoto Days began to be serialized as a manga in 2020. It follows Taro Sakamoto, a legendary hitman who trades his life of crime for the quiet, wholesome experience as a convenience store owner, husband, and father. But even retirement can't keep the past from catching up with him, as his peaceful life is soon interrupted by havoc, humor, and some of the most creative action sequences in modern manga. Naturally, fans were excited to see how this energy would translate to the screen. Trying to capitalize on this anticipation, the OP was released as a means to market Sakamoto Days. But the anime's opening seemed only to underwhelm, and naturally, fans wasted no time tearing into it despite the fact the series has received generally positive reviews. One major issue that fans pointed out was the visual quality. It feels flat and uninspired, especially for a series that reflects the intense dynamic action and accompanying comedy of the manga. The opening fails to bring any of those elements to life. Shot after shot appears to contain still figures in some of the most stiffest and most awkward stances. The framing is not dynamic, and we're left wondering where the adrenaline-packed action was. Combine that with the generic composition and overused anime tropes, the opening just doesn't visually stand out. The theme song is Run Sakamoto Run by Bondi, which is good. It does offer a source of energy, but ultimately it feels mismatched, outpacing the lackluster visuals, causing the whole thing to feel disjointed. A good song alone can't carry the opening. When it comes to visuals, not every series will have a budget as big as Demon Slayer or Dandadan to produce a level of fluid animation that's varnished with a cinematic polish. It's just not realistic. But another reason this opening in question fell short is that it didn't seek out other alternatives. Utilizing simpler approaches, like focusing on stylization, could have been a more reasonable option. From the selected color palette to the framing, those kinds of decisions can help bridge the gap. Sakamoto Days is a perfect example of how not committing to a unique style makes a huge impact. There are two worlds to contrast, of course. There's the peaceful, everyday life Sakamoto has chosen versus the chaotic, high-stakes assassin life that keeps creeping back in. A bright, warm color palette and playful framing could be used to represent the mundane moments, while the mayhem of a resurrected past could have been made up of darker tones, sharper lines, and intense close-ups, emphasizing its danger and tension. This contrast wouldn't just look better, it would feel better. It would mirror the heart of the story. As for framing, that is where the opening really fell apart. The first few shots actually make sense, with an establishing shot of the city buildings and scenes of life on the ground. Then we're met with the logo of the series, wiped away as Sakamoto casually walks across the screen. Not bad so far. Next, we're introduced to Shin, and for a moment, the opening shows potential in terms of flaunting contrast. A crowd of gray suits walk towards the camera, while Shin ventures away from them. His golden hair and sky blue jacket stand out amid the slate backdrop, appearing perfectly placed in the frame, following the rule of thirds. There's intentionality here, and it's meant to highlight Shin's clairvoyant ability. Muted tones contrasted with brightness symbolizes how he sees and understands the world differently from everyone around him. It's one of the strongest moments in the entire opening, but then things begin to fall apart. The remainder of the shots, focusing on the quiet life, feels as though they were an afterthought. The framing becomes inconsistent, the scenes don't flow together cohesively, serving as nothing more than an introductory montage of other characters. The opening intends to communicate the mundanity of Sakamoto's current life, but it's not at all that creative. It feels on the nose and overall disconnected. The second half of the opening does offer the shot at redemption, with shots of the order and action sequences appearing much more polished. It's a small taste of what this opening could have been if the same care had been applied throughout. Unfortunately, it's bogged down by forgettable images, which leads to an inconsistency that proves sedating to the viewer. And that was the primary takeaway. It was not in any way exciting or stimulating. Compared to other openings fans see, This opening really failed to make an impression. So, it doesn't matter if there were a few more kernels of promise. The lack of action is too much to have any chance of reversing the disenchantment many felt. This was a textbook example of the growing perception of when an opening falls flat, it feels like the anime is already failing to deliver on its potential. Here's the thing, we're more spoiled now than ever. Modern anime have set the bar incredibly high. Look at the openings for Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, or Jujutsu Kaisen. These aren't just intros, they're fully realized artistic statements that blend music, visuals, and narrative in ways that leave us breathless. They've conditioned us to expect nothing less than perfection in those initial 90 seconds. You know, it's been a minute, and I wonder, have anime openings always been like this? And is Sakamoto Days opening blowback a product of the current times? If you sit and watch the various different Naruto openings, it's easy to see how far conventional standards have come in regards to a series opening. Many of the openings that Naruto employed were void of any kind of action that fans have come to expect today. In fact, there really isn't a ton to refer to as spectacular on account of the frequency of still images and the deficiency of meaningful visuals. However, for one, Naruto holds a place in anime history that will never subject it to critiques about its opening sequences. At the end of the day, they don't diminish the quality of the series. And off of that, Naruto didn't have to jostle with many other anime series for the preeminence it held in its time alongside One Piece and Bleach. In the US, anime markets are far less crowded relative to today, and a series wasn't expected to ride the wave of an intense marketing wave. All that had to happen was it had to have an appealing storyline, put in front of new audiences, which is what Toonami did. But now the taste of anime is higher than ever around the globe. The sway of the internet is felt in all aspects of life, including entertainment, of course. The purpose of anime openings has evolved. With so many options at a viewer's fingertips today, each series needs a concise, punchy way to quickly enchant swarms of potential fans. The stakes are higher, which is clear because the standards of Naruto's time would have left Sakamoto Days alone. The opening would have been considered up to par. So, in a lot of ways, the blowback Sakamoto Days received for this attempted promotion was a sign of the times. After all, despite failing to create an alluring opening of cohesive action, the approach makes sense from a marketing standpoint. Given the fixation of OPs these days, it was a worthy attempt to lower the opening down on a hook as another teaser. It's the kind of thing that we're probably going to see more and more as time goes on. It also saves from spending on having to produce an additional teaser of some kind. Plus, the first few episodes of Sakamoto Days actually looks promising. The animation captures the humor and intensity of the manga better than the opening does. So evidently, it wasn't risking everything by resting its hat on the opening it chose to promote itself with. If anything, it was a solid gamble that did not spoil the series. But still, it's because of today's standards that it found itself on the receiving end of some abrupt criticism within online discourse. It was because the opening wasn't exciting enough as a piece of marketing that people anticipated a possible flop. This goes to show the impulses that openings can tap into could very well prevent some series from proper recognition. Though Sakamoto Days was probably going to be fine despite this opening debacle, I wonder, what could a fixation on series openings do to other anime not entering the scene with as big of a spotlight? Could a good show be overlooked or dismissed because of an underwhelming introduction? I suppose it's more possible now than ever, but there's likely no reason to assume that line of thinking. In fact, one should feel optimistic given the past. Consider the truth behind the reverse. While we often judge anime openings as if they're the ultimate indicator of quality, history has shown us that an amazing opening doesn't always mean the anime itself will be amazing. Think about Tokyo Ghoul. That opening is iconic, but the series itself became increasingly divisive. Or The Promised Neverland. Its opening for season 1 was phenomenal, but we all know how season 2 turned out. It's even worth bringing up Domestic Girlfriend, which had an opening so catchy it became a meme. And yet the show, well, let's just say the consensus wasn't so positive. And by being a good series, regardless of a disappointing opening, Sakamoto Days drives home that point. From establishing themes to inviting the viewer into the series world, yes, openings matter, but the fixation on them has certainly raised the standards for exhilaration and sizzle. Sakamoto Days presented a look on how much openings tend to deceive and offer fans a perspective on what ultimately counts. Of course you appreciate a good opening, but it isn't everything. So perhaps a cliche is a cliche for a reason. Maybe you shouldn't judge a book by its cover alone. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think anime openings matter as much as people say that they do? Or do we put far too much weight on them? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you liked the video and want to be a part of future anime discussions, because let's face it, I know you do, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I will see you all next time. Bye!